My 25F boyfriend, 25 meters, says really mean things to me in his sleep. I need to preface this by saying that when my boyfriend is awake, he is wonderful, and I couldn't be happier. We laugh and joke all day, and spending time with him in general is truly a joy. Yes, I mean this no. He doesn't upset me at all when he's awake. Also, for some background, he works night shifts at a job he really hates, so when he comes home, he likes to just relax, unwind, usually with whiskey or beer. Typically we cuddle, or I massage his back and legs until he's drunk enough to fall asleep. Edit. He doesn't need alcohol to fall asleep. I worded this wrong. He can fall asleep fine without it. I just meant that the alcohol makes him fall asleep quicker than usual. I have insomnia, so I usually end up staying awake for a while after he falls asleep. I'm also really sensitive to aggressive tone of voice due to some past trauma. He only really talks in his sleep if I shift too quickly or try to move him over a little bit, if I have no room on the bed, or if I move the blanket too much and it disturbs him. He usually snaps at me saying quit ducking moving, or can you please ducking stop, or oh my ducking god. Just things in general that give off an indication that has really annoyed with me. There's also been a couple unprompted times where he's stirred or rolled over, I guess disturbing his own sleep, and said things like I can do better than this, etc. Because of my sensitivity I usually end up crying over these things. I try to make it a point not to bring up the things he says/does in his sleep, unless they're funny, which sometimes happens, because, for one, I really don't think he can control it, and two, when I have brought up things he's said, he always ends up feeling horribly guilty for the things he says, and that makes me feel guilty for saying anything. Last night, in his sleep, he ripped my blanket away from me. We sleep with separate blankets, because this has been an issue in the past, and tucked it under himself and his own blanket. It was really cold in the room, so I tried to take it back, but he grabbed my hand and shoved it away. I didn't want to have to wake him up, but he's a lot stronger than me, and no matter what I tried to do I just couldn't get the blanket back. I shook him gently and kept saying, baby, can you please give me back my blanket? I was met with sleepy grunts, but he still wouldn't give it back. Finally, after a little persistence, he sat up really quickly and yelled, what do you want? Jesus, you're annoying. I said, I just want my blanket back please. He shoved it towards me and nearly knocked me off the bed, and then instantly lay back down and started snoring. I didn't sleep at all last night because of this. It's really eating at me. I really don't want to be annoying to him, especially when he's trying to rest after work, but I also don't know how I can keep putting up with this. Part of me wonders if he actually means any of the things he says. When he woke up this morning I couldn't bring myself to say anything about it, but I also couldn't look him in the eye. I guess my question in this is, am I being too sensitive? Should I bring this up to him? I don't know how much that would accomplish, because he usually has no recollection of it and doesn't know how to control it. What can I do to keep my sensitivity from affecting our relationship and the way I see him/myself? That's so weird. I really don't know what to make of it. However, you should definitely keep talking to him about this. Maybe even seek medical help, because there is something going on during his sleep. One thing for sure, this is not your fault. You're not being annoying. You just want to sleep comfortably without being cussed at. So don't feel bad about this. Don't feel bad about laying this on him, because he is causing it, whether consciously or not. He is causing you a lot of pain, and that needs to be fixed. And you can't fix something you don't really know is going on. This sort of extreme hostility whilst asleep can be a symptom of hyperarousal, i.e., stress, pain, anything that causes too much adrenaline or cortisol in the blood. I've known people who did it, and we are genuinely mortified and deeply apologetic for their behavior, but couldn't stop it. And ones who were happy to use it as a convenient excuse for their shitter hawk tendencies. I hope that he's not the latter. Maybe see if sleeping apart works for you. He gets the Murphy bed. You stay in the real one to get you some rest as well. And ask him to investigate what's going on. If it's a real problem that he wants to fix, he'll probably want to get help so as to not hurt you. If he's just being an asshole, he'll probably push back and insist that you should keep sharing a bed. You're definitely not the problem here. You're not being annoying. You're in a difficult and terrible situation. That bit about hyperarousal is interesting. I'm a chronic pain sufferer and I say awful and bizarre things in my sleep too. Will be asking my doctor about this. First, it's not you. An unenjoyable / unfulfilling job plus you plus a splash of alcohol and mixed together with unconscious equals nonsense. Yes, you are the target, but that's because you fill a big part of his brain. A sleepy brain is a stupid brain. And not co-sleeping may need to be discussed. No, you're not being too sensitive. And like, you don't have to collab. You know, if this is what you're going to go through, don't sleep in the bed with him. We have a 1-bedroom apartment. There's nowhere else to sleep but in bed with him. / could you fit 2 single beds in the room with a beside table in between? A lot of the issues seem to stem from accidental touching / blanket wars. Or since he works the night shift. Why don't you sleep while he's at work? That said, nightly drinking to fall asleep is incredibly unhealthy and not a legitimate way to deal with a stressful job. Some of these behaviors could be stemming from that and is something that should be looked at. I think you need to sit down and have a long about this and some solutions. If he's really as good as you say he is, he will want to facilitate changes to help you here. I was expecting legitimate sleep talking. This just sounds like someone being an asshole when they're trying to sleep. Just letting you know that you can have a full conversation with an unconscious person if they're a sleep talker / walker. Alright, you got me there lol. To ops credit though, it's still tough not to be hurt by someone being a total cock, even if they are sleeping and have no recollection of it. As others have said, it's a mixture of things: stress, drinking before bed, whatever underlying sleep habits, but it's not a fault of yours. Alcohol is a depressant that causes a lot of biological changes in the body. Although it appears to aid us in falling asleep, the quality of rest is lower than when we naturally fall asleep, or, for some, use sleep aids. Stress, lack of quality rest, and his cognitions associated with needing to rest can be factors driving him to have outbursts in his sleep. You happen to be on the receiving end since you're there. Some people are just awful when they are taken out of their REM cycle or woken up. I'm this type of person. I lack impulse control I typically have without exerting any effort and am super irritable. Although, I remember these instances and promptly go back and apologize to whoever might have been on my receiving end. During the times I don't remember, I usually wake up where I have passed out, the couch, because I'm a stubborn person that refuses prompts to move me to a bed. It's totally valid that your feelings get hurt being on the receiving end. However, the likelihood he remembers or can exercise typical impulse control while waking mid-sleep is questionable. From the context of this post, you have the right to bring this up to him. I would suggest in the morning when you're both up and alert. He might not be able to change what happens at night, and I'm not asserting that he should stop drinking before bed to get better sleep. That's a whole different topic, but at least by telling him he can do what he can to help you feel supported in future situations. You're also advocating on your own behalf and well-being by bringing it up. You mentioned that in the past has expressed a lot of guilt and you're hesitant to bring it up because of that. Someone that sees you as a mutual partner and respects you will accept the consequences of their behaviors, including their emotional reaction, like guilt, rather than projecting it back on you. Things won't change overnight, he pun intended, but communicating clearly how you feel and why sets the stage for coming up with creative solutions for change. Alcohol is a central nervous system depressant, not a depressant in the psychiatric sense of the word. I see this mixed up a lot, so I just wanted to clarify. Absolutely, you're right and is unclear in my response. One of the main factors that makes alcohol such a dangerous drug to detox from, we're talking bottles of hard alcohol from morning to night type of detox, is the way it impacts your GABA and glutamate neurotransmitters. However, alcohol use does have links to depression and anxiety, too. Although causal links between alcohol and mental health are dependent on various other individual level factors. My girlfriend is awful to me when she's asleep. When she's awake she's amazing, thoughtful, kind. She talks a little in her sleep, mostly nonsense. When I do try to move her or something though, she is savage. She's told me to duck off, go away, or just been generally a terrible bitch. Not gonna lie, took a little getting used to. When I first told her, she was horrified. Now we just laugh about it in the morning. Talk to him. He may be just a grumpy sleeper. Or maybe he isn't even really waking up. This message was girlfriend approved. My partner is exactly like this. To the point where he refuses to stay over people's houses when drinking. And will pay over $100 just to get himself home. Cause he has accidentally lashed out at his own friends trying to wake him up. We have separate blankets. Cause he also walks/kicks/flips while sleeping next to him. And he has tried multiple times to get it on with me. And then collapse into snores. I'll never forget the time. My partner was standing in our ensuite turning the lights on and off. And when I asked him what was wrong, he started talking about his electrical trade. Then proceeded to take his pants off and flick his dick up and down like the light switch. Before he went and sat in the couch for a while, then went to actual sleep. Funniest moment ever. And my partner priceless face waking up nude on our couch. That is absolutely hilarious. I bet it gets better when he stops drinking. It's not normal to get drunk to sleep. A shitty job is not an excuse for drinking. When he can't sleep without drinking, he needs to get help for this. And another job. No tiptoeing around it. You need to talk straight. Yeah, he definitely needs some help. It sounds like your boyfriend needs to go see at least one medical professional. Because his coping mechanism isn't working. I would also suggest therapy for yourself. Because you may have an issue with valuing yourself, which I 1000% have. Based on your post, it looks like he knows that there's a problem, but he's not working on finding a solution or making it better. Why do you believe you should accept someone who's ruining your sleep and your mental state? Why do you feel like you always need to save him from feeling bad when he's not working on fixing it? I don't live with my boyfriend, but we have regular sleepovers. He's been a sleep talker the whole time. But a few months ago I woke up with his hand on my throat. Not hard, but it was there. I pushed him away, and that woke him up. It turned out that he'd had a dream where he was choking someone. He was beyond horrified when he found out what happened, and it was a one-off event. That week he made a doctor's appointment and has also talked to the pharmacist and his psychiatrist, who are all pointing fingers and going, well, it can't be X. So tag, not it. We don't have a long-term solution yet. But ever since he slept on the couch when we had sleepovers, and that was his doing. Even when I told him I'd like to share the bed. My ex used to do this stuff and I always thought of it as his abusive tendencies leaking out. He turned into an incredibly abusive narc. Got to the point I was afraid to sleep in the bed with him. This is aggressive drunk behavior. I'm not going to call him an alcoholic. That's not my judgment to make, and I don't feel like there's enough info here to judge that anyway. But it does worry me. He drinks every night and this is how it makes him act. He may seriously just need to drink less. The amount might be the trigger, not the drinking itself. If he can't sleep without alcohol, then he should look into sleep aids. The words are bad enough, but I could rationalize them away as someone who's tired and not filtering. I've definitely snapped in exhaustion. Nothing drunk related about it, but the fact it's becoming physical is worrying. I'd sit down and ask him if there's a compromise you can reach on the sleeping situation for him to adjust his drinking habits. His reaction will tell you all you need to know. I would try to get him to do a test. He doesn't drink for a few sleeps and sees how he behaves and feels. If he is still doing it, try no alcohol and you sleeping elsewhere. Drinking may actually be negatively impacting his sleep, which is already thrown off due to his work schedule, making him feel and sleep act worse, and making him feel he needs that drink more. The alcohol might actually be causing part of the problem. Mental health counselor here. I think he is way stressed and could use some stress management support. The unconscious has a way of manifesting during sleep, and since you are the only one there, it is getting directed at you. He may need to see a counselor to help deal with stress he is experiencing, and I would encourage cutting back on the alcohol at night before bed. It will not help with stress management. You're not sensitive, and you also need you rest/sleep. It seems like you are scared to go to sleep. Solutions would probably be get an air mattress/sleep separated and bring it up to him. This is not okay, you need to sleep. Maybe he's like me and has graphic dreams where the things you say and do when he's asleep interject themselves into his dreams. For example, my husband will nudge me to claim some space, but in my dreams somebody is shoving me. I've threatened to chop his arms off and said other bizarre things that make no sense at all. Thankfully my husband thinks it's funny. Have you ever asked him if he remembers what he was dreaming about the morning after he says these things? Actually this is interesting and may have more to it. What I mean is, I personally have misophonia and it's when you're oversensitive to certain sounds. This leads to lashing out. For example, I go crazy hearing people chew or smack their lips, and this can lead to me saying really harsh things if I'm not careful. I'm not sure if there is something similar like high irritability when sleeping, but maybe look it up. If that's the only problem, then knowing about any condition like that could help you plan in the future and maybe take away some of the sadness you feel when being lashed out at. My friends and family all know I have my issue with certain sounds, and so it makes my lashing out more funny and even makes me smile at how annoying they can purposefully be just to trigger me. Little game of cat and mouse with friends sometimes, but I love them nonetheless. It sounds like he's telling the truth when he says he doesn't mean it, but I feel really weird about how he needs alcohol to fall asleep. The stress and the booze are probably coming together to make him really aggressive subconsciously. Something here needs to change. Whether it's getting an actual sleep aid as opposed to alcohol, seeking a different job, or both. You're not overreacting, and I would be just as upset in your position. Is your boyfriend very heavy set and or have breathing issues? It may be sleep apnea related anger. We've been looking into anger related to semi-consciousness during episodes around sleep apnea. I have the same problem. I have said horrible things to my husband in my sleep. I have threatened to kill him, as well as insulted his man bits. I have a thing called hyperarousal. I'm a chronic pain sufferer, so there are high levels of cortisol in my blood. It can manifest as sleep talking like this. Have him see a doc. That isn't sleep talk. You're not being sensitive. This is insane. He's an abusive drunk and you'll keep taking it from him, no matter what anyone here says. That's obvious. Yeah. I also wonder if he's even asleep. He has to be drunk to sleep? No. This isn't okay, and you know it isn't. I'll bet he's not a really nice guy. Girl, this is not sleep talking. This is someone being an asshole when they're trying to sleep. He should never be treating you this way, and if you've brought it up and has felt bad, but still does it, then spoiler. He doesn't feel bad. You're okay. You haven't done anything wrong. But this has to change, because you can't do this forever. How do you sleep next to this? This relationship needs separate bedrooms. You should talk to him about it. Can he control it? No. But it helps to discuss it, and might put you more at ease. My husband is downright mean when he is asleep, and I had the exact same reaction as you initially. Now years later we laugh about it when it happens. Well, once he wakes up, I keep in mind he is asleep and reacting on a very primal level when asleep. In some ways it kinda helps cause I'm a sleepwalker, so when I start my nocturnal travels he will pipe up in his sleep asking me where the hell I think I'm going, and it startles me awake, and I go back to bed. I do thank him the next day, and he is absolutely clueless what I'm talking about, lol. If he works night shifts, then why are you guys sleeping together at all? It sounds like you don't need to sleep together, and you should place another bed in the living room for yourself if he's truly perfect and the time he's awake, or 2 full beds instead of the 1 bed. Anyway, I don't understand your guy's sleeping schedule. It's the alcohol. It makes people violent. I'm going to answer your questions in order. No, you are not being too sensitive. Yes, you should bring this up to him. And as for how you can keep your feelings, /C answer 1, the problem is not your sensitivity from affecting your relationship and the way you see him/yourself. You can't. That is what feelings are supposed to do, in my experience. Suppress my emotions so they won't be a bother to my loved one is not only destined for failure, but ends up harming both people. Instead, I'll give you advice on how to talk to him about this. I don't think it's pointless to try. And there are things you two can do, even if he doesn't remember/can't control what he's saying and doing at night. This post will be kind of long, and a lot of my advice is going to sound somewhat formal. but it's just meant to provide some scaffolding to help you both treat each other lovingly and respectfully while talking about something that sounds pretty fraught. This is essentially a framework for how to fight fair in a relationship. Close bracket. First, agree on a time and place to have a conversation about what's happening. Pick a time where you will both be awake/alert, won't be hungry, won't be in a rush to get anywhere, and can set aside interruptions or distractions. Pick a place that is private and feels more or less emotionally neutral, the dining table, the couch, etc. Not the bedroom. Second, agree on the following. You are being hurt at night. This is a problem for both of you. During this conversation, you will focus on this problem alone. You will come up with ideas of what to do together. That means the conversation is not about whose fault it is, your fear of being annoying/oversensitive, his guilt or defensiveness, what this triggers for you in terms of trauma, whether he really loves you, whether you're a good girlfriend, etc. This list could go on forever. Basically, the two of you need to agree that you won't get derailed by other problems or issues that come up. When strong emotions bubble up, you both agree to set them aside to talk about later. Because this conversation is set aside for one problem only, you're not magicians. Give yourselves permissions to just do one thing at a time. Third, agree on ground rules for how you're going to talk to each other. These can be unique to different relationships, but some good basic ones. No sarcastic or snide remarks. No raised voices. No passive aggression. No bringing up old fights. No throwing/hitting inanimate objects. No storming off. You might want to agree that you'll both stay seated, or what you'll do if you need to take a break to get a breather. It depends on what you both need. So set ground rules you both can agree are fair. You know each other's soft spots. Agree not to hit each other there. Fourth, come up with ideas of what you can do to work on the problem of Op is being hurt at night. Some ideas. In addition to what other comments have suggested, you, Op, can let him know after an incident has happened what you need from him. Comfort, time alone, reassurance, and BF can agree to do those things for you if able. He can go to a doctor/sleep specialist to see if there is an underlying health cause, reaction to alcohol, sleep apnea, night terrors, etc. and find out what might help. Sobriety before bed, a CPAP machine, medication, etc. He can go to a therapist or psychiatrist to talk about the aggression coming out in his sleep and how to work on it. You can both attend couples therapy. He can sleep on the couch or get a really nice air mattress. You can get rid of your shared bed and get two smaller ones. Bonus fun, pretending to be a 1950s sitcom couple. Close bracket. This list needs to be based on 2 yes or 1 no, meaning that nothing goes on the list unless you can both say yes to it. If one of you doesn't support or can't commit to something, then it isn't a viable option. Fifth, pick an option or two to try out for a while. If things like doctor or therapist appointment can't be done right away, make sure you choose some ideas that you can implement immediately. Just don't try to overhaul your lives overnight. Again, you are not magicians. Be patient with yourselves and each other. Set reasonable expectations of what you can do practically and what you can manage emotionally. Sixth, set a date to follow up on this conversation. With the same rules for timing/place/ground rules. Give yourselves longer than a week, but no longer than a month. When you get there, talk about what has happened, what you've tried, and how it's gone. What worked, what didn't, what other ideas could you try. Personally, I think this follow-up is a good time to share an ice cream sundae or whatever non-alcoholic treat you both like, because we are working on a shared problem and it's super challenging, but we are still doing it is worth rewarding each other and yourselves for. The truth is, this situation sounds absolutely horrifying to me. My knee-jerk reaction was oh girl, dump his ass and run like the wind. But I don't know either of you, and I'm not a sleep specialist or a psychiatrist myself. So I tried to stay non-judgmental. However, if your boyfriend can't or won't work with you on this, you should definitely question that. This isn't something you can fix or get over by yourself. And since you're the one being hurt, it's not even something you can do the lion's share of fixing. It's okay to ask him to do more. and it's equally okay to let him do more. I really wish you the best. Good luck and sweet dreams. He's a heavy sleeper. I have dealt with many heavy sleepers. Family, friends and so on. A few are like this. They don't realize anything that they did or said as they are asleep. Even when they wake up only to fall down and sleep in the bed again. They won't remember that ever happened because they were still asleep when it happened. Talk to him about it. Every time he does something like that, talk to him about it. Eventually he will subconsciously back off and stop saying and doing the things he does in his sleep. It needs time, but don't keep these things by yourself and be fed up, and then he gets blindsided when you leave him. Your boyfriend is an alcoholic. This is how my 5-year mentally, physically, and emotionally abusive relationship started. He pretended to be asleep and just laid into me constantly, but was happy during the day. I don't think he's really asleep when he's doing these things to you. Yikes. He is a nasty person in bed. I don't know that this will be helpful at all, but here's my experience with this from the other side of the bed. I talk/do stuff in my sleep and have no recollection of it upon waking up. Like, not even a little bit. Once my then current boyfriend called me while I was asleep and I managed to answer my phone and snapped at him. I would never have known had he not mentioned my being mean and then verifying with my call history. I also had some sort of thing with a roomie and we were sharing a bed for a week or so, and one day I woke up and she was gone. I asked her why she'd moved back to her bed and she told me I'd woken her up in the night and asked her to leave. Mortifying. I've been super anxious about sharing a bed with partners since when I'm asleep. That's not me, and I often say things I really don't actually mean. Exclamation mark. It just stems from annoyance at something impeding my sleep. That being said though, I've never shouted at someone shaking me awake or nearly knocking someone off a bed. That might be indicative of some underlying problems on his end. Or it might not. I'd much rather my partner tell me what it is I'm doing in my sleep than not, even though it feels shitty. And from there, it's about working to minimize the potential for agitation. So whether that's putting some kind of large body pillow between you two as a barrier or entirely different sleeping arrangements, something's gotta give, cause if he's like me, this shit is chronic. Frankly, I think you need a more permanent solution than this. But if you're dead set on just shifting your sensitivity, you've gotta believe that he really isn't cognizant/aware/meaning whatever he says in that asleep state. You mentioned partly wondering if he does. And until you're sure he doesn't, this is gonna keep hurting you more than it should, so to speak. Good luck. Please click subscribe if you enjoyed this video.